Good morning, you guys. It is Amanda and Barron with Kicking Cancer Cares on KSLM Radio, 104.3 FM and 1220 AM. Our sponsor for this first half is Odd Moe's Pizza. So last week I switched it up. Odd Moe's Pizzas, they're phenomenal. Their ingredients are fresh. They're amazing. They've got gluten-free options, vegan options. So last week, though, I went with just the traditional pepperoni pizza.
Oh, okay.
But I added the white garlic sauce to it as well. Oh my gosh, it was so good on cauliflower crust.
Yeah.
So it's okay to mix and match and just, it is addictive.
In a good way.
In a good way, yes. In the best way.
Yeah.
So order your guys yourself some Odd Moe's. You can have it delivered. You can pick it up. All the things. Yep.
Well, we have a guest with us, and for those that are watching on YouTube, and if you haven't subscribed yet, please hit subscribe to our YouTube channel.
Yes.
But there's a lot of pink in the room today.
Yes, there is.
And we have a friend of mine as a guest. This is Dr.Erin Hurley. Welcome.
Thanks.
So let our listeners know who you are, what do you do. You were telling us before we recorded your background. It's a pretty extensive background. So what have you done in your life?
Well, quite a bit. But first and foremost, I am a physician. So I'm a retired pediatrician, practiced pediatrics for 25 years, and spent 10 years of that working at a nonprofit child abuse center here locally as a child abuse specialist. And then over the last few years have transitioned with retiring from medicine. I now support mostly women in medicine as a high performance and well-being coach, trying to help mitigate some of the burnout issues in physicians, especially women physicians and other female healthcare providers.
Okay.
We're going to go much deeper into all of that.
Okay.
But I have no problem shouting out the nonprofit she mentioned.
Yes.
Because Matt Miller, who is on our board of directors and has been a guest, is on their board of directors as well.
Okay.
It's Liberty House.
Okay. All right. Awesome.
And I want to get deeper into Erin's story, but we had an RN with us last week. We have an MD this week.
Okay.
Carrie was with us last week.
Yes,
right?
That's right.
Such an interesting discussion about all these toxins that are in our environment.
Mm-hmm.
And she has a wonderful saying. She's helping you find a solution to your body's pollution.
Love that.
And I love that.
And she was an RN for 40 years.
Mm-hmm.
Any one thing kind of stick out from you from that conversation?
I think the chemicals that are banned in other countries versus what's banned here, which is next to none. If I remember correctly, oh Lord, I think it was 11,000. 1,300 here that are allowed, and it's like 11 or 13.
You're really close. There's 1,300 chemicals that are banned in EU.
Okay.
But there's only 11.
Okay, there it is.
That are banned in the United States.
So I had it backwards.
Yeah, only 11 chemicals that are banned here.
Which is bizarre.
Yeah.
Absolutely crazy.
And I'm sure that if we had a lot more time, Erin could weigh heavily onto that topic as
yes.
well. But no, again, if you missed that episode, please go back and listen. And part of the reason I want is we've been doing shout outs to listeners.
Yes.
Now, and I find this one really interesting because I'm listening to the show on Saturday and I get a text from you of a screenshot. Do you want to read that screenshot?
Yes. So this was from a listener, Michelle Grubbs, and she said, I am loving today's show. I'm spellbound. So much information, factual information coming at me. Her mom, and she references her mom on how she passed when she was 80 because of cancer. And then she said the comparison of banned chemicals is shocking. And then she said, P.S. we can't hear Lucy. No worries.
Because you thought Lucy was snoring.
Yeah. So it's just, and I think that was the same thing that stood out to me the most too. And so I actually this weekend started making homemade creamer and homemade dog food.
You were showing a little video of you making the homemade dog food. Well, if anybody would like to see the video of you making that homemade dog food, I'm sure if they go to YouTube, we can see the video of you making
yes, okay. I will share it. I will share it. I will, indeed.
Well, I have one other shout out, and this one actually comes from Olympia, Washington.
Okay.
And last week we shouted out Alice Loomis, who lives in Kennewick, Washington, and I ship our listeners that mention that we're listening one of our trifolds along with a sticker. Well, I sent her the sticker shaped like Washington.
Yeah.
and Alice sent me the picture that she had gotten it.
Okay.
And so I shared that picture. Well, Karen, and I'm probably going to say her last name wrong because it looks very French. I think it's Joyeux. I'm not...
Joyeux.
Joyeux.
Oh, wow.
I took French
Oh, yeah,
instead
I
of
was like,
Spanish.
wow.
It hasn't served me very well the
Until
last
now.
however many years, but sometimes it comes in
Well,
handy.
and thank you for saving me because I really don't want to say the lady's name right. But Karen lives in Olympia, Washington. And she
Okay.
says, where's my sticker?
Yes. So,
So there's a sticker being sent to Olympia, Washington as soon as the show's done.
I
Karen
love
gets
it.
And it's just a fun sticker that is the shape of Washington with our donkey on it.
Yes. Okay.
So both Karen and Michelle listen to the show, and those are our shout-outs.
Perfect. Thanks for listening, you guys.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to go back to our magazine, and it's our 100 disease-fighting foods.
Okay.
Now, I do know we have another listener, Bob Bush,
Oh, yeah. Hello, Bob.
and Bob did send me a text that he did like oysters.
Ugh, gross.
That was last week. So.
I mean, teach their own, Bob. Teach their own. More for you, huh?
Well, you might like this one better.
Okay.
Papayas.
You know, I
You-
can't say that I've ever done anything with them.
Really?
If you-
Growing up on those as a
Ye-
kid, my mom would put lemon juice
Okay.
and honey on it. Oh my
Yes.
gosh, so good.
I'm not sure I've ever really. Okay, talk to me.
All right. Well, papaya is packed with fiber and antioxidants such as vitamin C and carotenoids.
Okay.
Some promising research suggests that this tropical fruit may help stave off aging-related brain diseases.
Okay.
A cup of papaya is packed with 87 milligrams of vitamin C, making it one of the
Wow.
best sources of immunity-boosting vitamin.
Okay.
And it is a tropical fruit.
Yeah.
And I do know that when we were prepping for the show,
Whoa there.
yeah, sorry about that, guys. When we were prepping for the show, Erin was in Costa Rica,
Okay.
which is it might be a fruit they might have in Costa Rica a little bit.
They do, but I'm with you. I do not eat papaya. I ate it once to save my daughter, who doesn't eat any fruits, from having a whole bowl of papaya given to her when we were on a mission trip, and her eyes were wide open looking at me and her
Like,
dad
help.
like, save me. I don't want to be rude and not eat this papaya. So my husband and I diligently ate this big bowl of papaya when we were in the Dominican Republic, even though neither one of us particularly care for the fruit.
Okay.
We
That's
did our
funny.
due diligence.
That's a fun little story.
It is a tropical fruit.
Okay.
These are actually beneficial too with parasite cleanse.
Oh. Okay.
Mhm.
Yes.
I'd say
Okay.
research it.
All
Yeah.
right. I
Well,
will.
And if the listeners are on the radio station are not familiar with the research, go to YouTube on Monday, because I guarantee you Ashley's going to be giving you the research on it on YouTube
Absolutely.
right now. I guarantee it.
Yes.
Well, and I have a really fun update for you.
Okay.
So I mentioned this a couple weeks ago, that we have an adult pathways program coming out.
Yes. Yes.
Would you like to know the curriculum?
I would. I would. I think this is great. I think this is exactly what Salem needs. All people need.
Yeah. Well, first off, the adult pathways program, the inspiration for this came after Ozzy passed, because we watched his parents, and this would have been over a year ago.
Mm-hmm.
Ozzy was a little 3-year-old that had gotten a brain tumor, and after he passed, his parents, who were in their mid-30s, they were just stuck. We knew they were psychologically stuck, and we said we have to find a way that we can help the adults get through this trauma. And so Robin, who's on our board and runs the program, and I are going to do this together. And so we're going to help you get from the little T's of trauma, which then compound to become the big T.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So here's the little T's. A loss of a job.
Yep.
That's a trauma. Divorce. Bankruptcy, or some financial disease, cancer,
Mm-hmm.
and death. So those are your 5 little T's.
Yeah.
Now, me personally, 3 of these hit me at the exact same time 12 years ago.
Oh, wow.
And any one of those little T's I probably could have psychologically got past, but it pushed me into a depression that I stayed in for about 3 years. So we want to help you get those little T's, which can become a big T,
Yeah.
big trauma. And so inside of the course, it's a 7-week course. You can go to our website and sign up for it now. It's $199 for the 7 weeks.
Okay, that's nothing.
It's an hour and a half via Zoom.
Mm-hmm.
There's a flyer that's being created. Ashley's creating a Facebook event to go find us. The first week is just an introduction to these little T's.
Yeah.
The second week, we're going to deal with the first of 5 negative emotions. If you are going through trauma, you might be stuck in the anger and rage stage,
Yeah.
right? The second one is sadness and depression. The third one is fear and terror.
Yeah.
The fourth one is hurt and betrayal. And the fifth one is guilt and shame. And
All very valid.
All very valid. And any of those negative emotions you can get stuck in for a long period of time.
Yeah.
And then the 7th week is we want to kind of review all of it and then help you build a community to go to as you move forward.
Mm-hmm.
So my
Perfect.
update for you is this program is officially launched.
I love it. Congratulations.
Thank
That's
you.
exciting.
One, it's a very valuable program. I
Oh,
think.
very. Yeah.
You know.
So if you guys missed any of those details or weren't able to jot them down because you're driving, email me, Amanda at kslm.news,
And I'm leaving one of these for you in
Perfect.
case anyone emails you.
and I will get you guys over a copy of this.
And I know some of this is going to play into Erin's personal story and what she's done, but I want to shift gears and give Erin really a chance to talk to you about her medical background,
Okay.
because the listeners know that every month Kickin'Cancer honors somebody.
Mm-hmm.
Currently, we're honoring somebody that Ashlie helped us find.
Okay.
Her name is Ashlie Mathis,
Okay.
and she lives here in town, and she's dealing with lung cancer. So
With-
in December, we're honoring Ashlie Mathis.
Okay. I love it.
In January, we're honoring Erin Hurley.
Okay. I love it.
Yeah, as a cancer survivor.
Perfect.
But share with us your background, your credentials, your medical journey through school.
yeah.
As I shared earlier, I am trained in, I have an MD. So as a physician, I practiced general pediatrics for 14 years. And I've been in the Salem area for, close to 20 years now. And then I transitioned. I was recruited to Liberty House because of my interest in child abuse medicine since I was in my residency. And really, that helped develop my understanding of trauma. And I began to have a much more holistic approach to medicine, and both in just recognizing what is our energy bringing to the room, what are better ways of having well-being instead of just throwing a pill at something like traditional what we
Yeah.
call allopathic medicine from MDs, DOs. What are the ways we can do to prevent health issues? How can we more naturally have a more holistic approach to medicine? So that it was such a gift to work at a child abuse center to help develop me as a physician, to help me have a better understanding about trauma, because I don't think any of us get out of this life without some form of trauma.
Amen.
And when we understand what trauma can do, not only to our thought processes, our executive functioning, but our bodies and how it can live in our bodies, and then the importance of really dealing with it, because otherwise it's going to be kind of stuck with us and can lead to childhood trauma, oftentimes leads to adult illnesses, including cancer, including heart disease and all kinds of things.
Yeah.
And by dealing with those traumas can sometimes help us have better outcomes. And so that's kind of my more holistic lean into medicine these days. And as I shared, I retired from practicing medicine 2 years ago because I began also looking into methods of helping heal the healer, which was using coaching as a method to sustain well-being and bring less burnout to people practicing
You like
medicine.
that phrase, help heal the healer?
I do.
Isn't that a
I
great
do.
phrase?
Yeah.
Well, and I think about doctors I know that what you see as a doctor, and you do with pediatrics, but whatever profession you have as a doctor, you're seeing some trauma. And the ones, I just don't understand how they do it. I know I couldn't. But you're in these ERs, and there's some horrific situations that come into an ER. And I think one of the worst has to be the burn units and, people whose bodies are just severely burnt. And you're psychologically trying to get them past that physical situation, and yet you're traumatized too.
Yeah.
So for you to help heal the healer is huge. It's huge.
Well, even like how I interpreted it was parents, mothers, we're the healers of our family and making sure everything's going smooth. But then what focus is put on us?
Not very much, unfortunately.
Right.
And women physicians are very good at focusing on everyone else. And I know for myself, I was 50. It was my birthday gift to myself when I began working with a coach. And I gained the realization that when I was helping fix everybody else's problems, whether it was my own family's, whether it was my patients, then I was not focusing on my own issues.
Right.
And so it really allowed me to pause and take notice of what's going on with myself. And the things that I wanted to change, I just needed to change me and how I was showing up, and everything else changed for the better. It was very eye-opening. And when I saw that my coach could do that for me, I thought, I need to do this for other women
Right.
in medicine, because it is such a powerful transformation in what we can do with that insight and awareness.
Yeah. I almost feel like it's like a snowball effect. When you start going down that right path, everything just kind of starts to fall in line. And it's just
Absolutely.
a snowball effect for the positive and the better.
Well, right. And for me, it was looking for work-life balance. But when I started recognizing, what are my boundaries, all these different things that I was coached on, that it affected not only how I showed up at work, it showed up how I was in my marriage. And as a parent, one of my
Right.
biggest issues, you talk about the trauma with parenting, or, with women focusing on others. And what I realize is, as a physician, I was so career focused, because that's what's driven in medicine, that it was negatively impacting my parenting. And here I was, a pediatrician
Right.
and a mom. And it was my career choice was negatively affecting my parenting. And so whether it's your career choice, whether it's trauma because you're facing having a family member with cancer, or other things, they can negatively impact every relationship you have. And so by raising awareness, like you're doing here with Kicking Cancer, and raising that awareness, then now we can say, oh, I didn't know this before.
Right.
Once your awareness is raised, now it's up to you to make that decision, that
Yes.
intentional decision to say, am I going to do something about this? Because now you have that choice.
Yes.
Well, and you said when your awareness is raised, when this show goes to YouTube, the show is called Know Better,
Do better.
Do Better.
Absolutely.
Raise the awareness. You mentioned it a little bit ago. I think it's a perfect shift into the second part of the conversation. She said when you understand what family members are going through, and I know for you it would have been about 16 years ago that your sister was going through cancer, correct?
More than that, actually. So back in 1998, or a long time ago, 27, 28, 28, 9 years ago. So my sister, 4 years older than me, was diagnosed with breast cancer at age 33, and then again at age 35. And
So your sister went through it twice.
Twice, yep.
Wow.
And what the benefit, the good thing was, is that she was near UCLA. They had just come out with the gene testing, the BRCA gene testing.
Yes, yes.
And so when she was 35 and she had it for the second time, her team said, this doesn't make any sense. There's this new test. We would like you to get tested. And so she found out she was BRCA2 positive. And then that meant I had a 50-50 chance
Yeah.
of being positive.
So I think it's a really good chance for you to educate the listeners, because I know enough to be dangerous.
Yeah.
What exactly is the BRCA gene?
Yeah. So BRCA is BRCA. There's BRCA1 and BRCA2. And basically, it's a defect in one of the copies you have. So we all have 2 copies of this gene. And so for, me and my family, some of us have a mutation in one of those copies, and it's a protective factor. So you basically have 2 protective factors. Now we've got one knocked out. So if you knock out the other protective factor, it increases your chances of getting cancer. So for
Okay.
me, I printed up, so they're in my bag here, but the numbers, my chances of getting breast cancer, which is usually about a 12% risk for women, and my risk is anywhere from, let's say, 40 to 80%, depending on what studies you look at, but significantly elevated for breast cancer.
Right.
Also elevated for skin cancer, melanoma. My sister also had a melanoma in situ. Risk of ovarian cancer, risk of pancreatic cancer. For men with the BRCA2 gene mutation, very high risk of prostate cancer, which my dad and his brother both were affected by.
So the BRCA gene is there as a protection, but if you lose one or both, then that protection's gone.
Wow. Okay.
And a little announcement for the future, I'm in conversations with a male breast cancer survivor.
Okay.
As a guest for
That
our
would be
show.
awesome.
Yeah.
That would be awesome.
Because breast is a region of the body. It's not a
Exactly.
gender specific.
Absolutely.
You know, and so this gentleman is a breast cancer survivor, but you said if you're BRCA1 or BRCA2 positive, then that part is gone.
There, right. One of your copies is knocked out, and there is a difference in the risk. So the risk for ovarian cancer and a BRCA2 gene mutation is lower than, it's still higher than the average population, but if you have BRCA1, it's a higher risk. The types of breast cancer that can happen with that behave differently. So when you know your status, then that helps your team better develop what kind of treatment options that you have. And as you said, there are male breast cancer diagnoses, and those can be elevated when you have one of these gene mutations. And BRCA isn't the only one. It's been one of the ones around the longest, but there are other gene mutations that can run in families. And so if you are at risk, actually seeing a genetic counselor so they can look at your family history, because it might look like BRCA, they do the BRCA testing and it's negative, but they have a different type of genetic issue. And I'm getting a little bit in the weeds with my medical brain and all the research.
I'm following.
But genetic counselors are going to be staying up to date. And I did some volunteering for FORCE, which is Facing Our Risk of Cancer Empowered, which was developed specifically for people, families like mine, that are affected by genetic predisposition for cancers. And during my 8 years of volunteer work with them, I would go to conferences and national conferences and education. And it was amazing how far we've come with our genetic knowledge and how many different ways that you can have different cancer risks. And so if you've been evaluated years and years ago and it hasn't been updated and they didn't have a reason why your family might have more cancer, then getting an update with a genetic counselor can be very beneficial.
Yes.
You remember when we had Derek from OHSU Nye
Yes.
Institute? That's what Nye Institute is doing.
Yes, that's what made me think of it. Yes, it was like, oh, yes, the genetic testing to see. Yeah.
Well, so your sister was diagnosed 27 years ago. Did that trigger you to get tested?
Absolutely. So I'm a physician. I want to know my risk of cancer, and so to me, knowledge is power. And at age, I think it was,
You said that.
Yeah.
so at age 31, I was tested for the gene mutation, and my older sister and I are very much alike. We look alike, we act alike, we think alike, and I just kind of knew in my gut, my heart, that I was going to be positive, and I was. And for me, the man I was dating at the time, his mom, he died of breast cancer when he was 11. I remember getting the call when they called to tell me my results and sitting there next to him, and she felt terrible that she was calling me with the results because I did my testing at UCLA. I was living in Oregon. And she's like, I'm really sorry to tell you this over the phone, but you tested positive. And so...
How did he handle that?
He's an amazing man.
Okay.
He's an amazing man. He married me anyway.
Okay.
Yeah, and he, he even donated blood when my sister had her second round of breast cancer. We were dating at the time, so we both donated blood because she had blood transfusions because of the kind of surgery she had. So yeah, he's a very incredible human being.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Was that scary getting those results?
Well, it's interesting because depending on your perspective. So
Right.
at the time, I read the research. What are my chances of getting it? I was 31. I was dating my now husband. Didn't have any kids, and I looked at the results one way, and I was like, "There's no way I'm going to do any preventive surgery, which would have been like a preventive mastectomy.
Right.
That's crazy." And then, so I didn't do anything, about it. I wasn't even getting regular screening tests or anything like that. And then fast forward, and my sister started going to these conferences with Facing Our Risk of Cancer Empowered, and she is riding on the bus with a plastic surgeon who specializes in preventive surgeries for women at high risk for breast cancer. And she'd met him a few years because she'd gone to this conference. She's on the bus back to the airport, sitting next to this surgeon. And she calls me, and I still remember I'm driving home from work, and she says, "So Erin, I'm sitting here next to Dr. Salzberg, and he wants to know, why aren't you doing anything about your breast cancer risk?"
Right.
And I had children late. I had my twins at age 36. I had my youngest when I was age 39, and I was like just finished turning 40 or something. And I was like, well, I just finished nursing my youngest child. Like, I was keeping this tissue around for a reason, and to get a little bit up close and personal. But I was like, she's like, well, he wants to know, you're like a ticking time bomb. He wants to know why you're not doing anything.
Wow.
So she had seen people who had genetic predisposition for cancer not do anything and that get cancer.
Yeah.
And, some of these people didn't make it. And she didn't want that to happen to her little sister.
No, not at all.
And so I remember being so she really kept on me, and she'd bring it up when she'd come over for dinner. And I remember standing in the middle of my kitchen. I had 3 young kids running around, and I remember kind of having this like, I don't want my 3 kids to have the same outcome that my husband did, losing their mom at a young age. And so I had my sister be the guinea pig. She went and she had a lumpectomy on one side and a mastectomy on the other side. So she went and had surgery with this team of surgeons in New York. In August, I called to get some information, and they put me on the schedule. And then I was scheduled for November of 2007 to have my preventive mastectomy.
Good. Awesome.
So that's where that 16 years came. So it was
okay.
Well, mine
Good
is.
for her
I think
for
I'm in
continuing
year
to push you.
Yes, 7. I think mine was in 2000. Yeah, so that goes on to the story of I did end up going on to get
that's
diagnosis
part 2
later,
Of the
yeah.
Okay, well, perfect.
And we're almost out of time.
Yes.
So we're going to leave our listeners with a cliffhanger, because if you want to hear the rest of Erin's story, you're going to have to come after the commercial.
Yes. Okay. So huge shout out to Oddmo's for sponsoring this first half of our show. Amazing pizza, amazing fresh ingredients. If you guys have not tried them, I highly recommend the Green Monster. Amazing if you love artichoke hearts. I did not know I loved them until I had his pizza. Yes. And then it was like, oh no, this is a thing.
Yeah.
So give Oddmo's pizza a try. All right. We'll be right back, you guys. Stay tuned.